the live stream. Let me see if I can get this a little better. Light's a little hot. We're trying a new setup. I'm going to apologize ahead of time if the microphone sounds bad tonight. I'm using the Deity Pocket System, and it's failing on me now like 50% of the time, and I should probably do something else. Reached out to their support, and they said, send us some stuff, and I did, and I never heard from them again. It's been like a week. But we're here to talk about golf tonight. Thanks for hanging out. I've been playing golf. I've been playing golf for about 3 months now, and I started playing because my son, my 3-year-old, now 3-year-old, is into it, and he just wanted to go to the driving range all the time. And so we're at the driving range, I start swinging clubs, I'm enjoying it. And then I have the invite from my father-in-law to play golf with him, and I enjoyed it. And I played golf a little bit when I was in like grade school and high school, never like seriously, I wasn't on the team or anything, I was bad. And then I played a little bit after college as a young adult. And like, there is a video called like, was that a hole in one on my channel when I golfed with my buddy Scooter. And like, there's shots where I full swing and miss the ball, like different time, very bad at golf. Now I've approached the game a little differently, and I've just really started to enjoy it. And what I enjoy about it is the mental exercise that the game becomes, different than any other sport that I've played. And while I haven't played a lot of sports, played basketball, played a lot of ultimate frisbee, those team sports, those high action sports have great metaphors for life and for business and things like that. But what kept hitting me about golf is the parallels to being a creative professional and playing a round of golf. And I'm sure I'm not the first person to make these sort of connections that I'm going to be talking about this evening, but from my perspective, I found a lot of unique benefits to playing, and therefore challenges as I go out and play again. Even if I'm playing the same course again and again and again as I do, it's always different. Just like if you're going to film an event, if you film weddings, they may be the same weddings in the same place. It's always going to be different, and there's things that you can learn from that. So before we get into that, I want to talk about what I don't like about golf and how I'm addressing that, because once we get that out of the way, then we can move forward with the why I am enjoying it. Golf historically has been a very exclusive, elitist sport, with country clubs having racist policies, some to this day, subtly or directly, but in far too recent history, rules that excluded women and people of color. And part of me, I had a huge hesitation going to a golf course and being seen at a country club, because I don't want to be a part of that community. And it's easy for somebody to see me pull up and be like, yep, that guy's like everyone else that I would expect. And because of that, I've had this hesitation to play, but I've found a couple different places and ways where I've seen the game be embraced a little bit differently, and I've changed my approach to it. And one of the little things that I started doing from the very beginning is I have this shirt that says "Say Gay" on it, and I love wearing it to country clubs because I think it's a message that needs to be heard, and it's an easy way to show people that things are a-changing than maybe it would have been 10, 20 years ago, and I have no problem being a loud carrier of that message. When it came to buying clubs, none of the major brands have done anything substantial to do anything with non-binary. Everything is male and female, and I don't love that. But there's no acknowledgement of pride or LGBTQIA plus rights or representation or visibility in the sport. Like, nobody. Nike was the only people, and they don't make stuff, and they don't make clubs anymore. And so I had this other hesitation, like, I don't want to buy clubs from a company that makes no effort to be actively inclusive and to grow and progress the sport to more people with more equity than it has been historically. But PXG is a company, Parsons Extreme Golf, by the guy Bob Parsons, who started GoDaddy and does other things, I guess, too. I happened to, they were recommended to me by my friend Carl, who uses them, And the day that I checked out their website, they were running a special. This was in June for their Pride gloves and towels and club covers and stuff. But it's the first time I had seen any major golf company say, hey, Pride, LGBTQI plus rights, let's do it. And so I gave them a shot, and I was using my father-in-law's clubs from like 1984 or 5. Let me grab one of these beauties over here. Behind the camera. Oh, lost a mic pack. I just hope everything's still working. Let me know if it's not. But the clubs I were using were these stainless steel Wilson Pro Selects. And these things are fine. Thanks, Jay. These things are fine, but they're old. And after playing, I was playing for a couple months with these and still enjoying the game, not really feeling like anything was, I felt like what was holding my game back was me not being able to connect with the ball consistently. And Carl was like, you should get new clubs, it'll make a difference. I'm like, there's no club that would have made a difference to how I played today. But in spite of that, I went and I got fitted for clubs, and I ordered 3 clubs. And we'll get into that in a second. But I ordered 3 clubs from PXG that were like made for me and fit well. And the technology has come so far, it's incredible. And this is sort of a parallel for what we're going to be talking about. But you don't have to work as hard to get the ball to go really far. Like on average, I had a 7-iron that I used all the time from this old set. And my 7-iron now, my old 7-iron would go about 120, 130 yards, not a long shot. My new 7-iron I can put to 170, 180 yards. Much further with the same club, same angle on it and everything, just different technology inside it. And embracing that, but also knowing that you can't just swing a better club and it's going to fix everything. You have to bring technique along with that, has been something fascinating to me and something that has drawn a parallel to real life in a much more obvious way than I had imagined. But I got my golf clubs from a company that does Pride stuff, and I'll show these to you because I think they're awesome. But I like that they have black heads on them. I just think they look extra cool. But these are the PXG Gen 4 0311 XP clubs. And man, do these things pop a ball into the air. You are allowed to take 14 clubs onto the golf course on a tournament event, on any professional event. And I carry 6. And I'm told by no shortage of people that I need more than this. I have, if you're familiar with golf, I have a sand wedge, a 56-degree wedge, a pitching wedge, which is, I think, I don't even know. I can't even guess. And then a 7-iron. So sand, pitching, 7-iron. Then I have a hybrid that I never use, and my driver. And people say, hey, you need more than that. Yeah, 0311 in the Marines is infantry. Bob Parsons is a Marine, and there's so many metaphors and there on the back of the putters is his like unit's skull with a whatever number, 26 or something like that. And there's a lot of military influence in the branding of their products. But the reason I bring this up is so I have 6 clubs, and everyone tells me like, well, if you swing your 7-iron and it goes 170 yards, you need a club that's going to go 160 yards and 190 yards, and a club that's going to go 200 yards, and a club that's going to go 110, 120, all these different distances, so that when you have a shot and you're 120 yards away from the green, you can say, oh, this is going to be my 8-iron. And if you're a little further away or if it's a little windy, you say, oh, this will be my 7-iron. I'll hit it a little farther. And that's a boring way to play for me. It's a boring way to play because it just means that you're going to get out a club, stand there, and make a full swing. And there's no nuance, there's no difference, no excitement about, well, all I have is a 7-iron. How can I swing it differently to get it to do something different? And that's the big piece. That's one of the two big pieces of the game, which I'm finding fascinating as a creative professional. And before I dive into that, the last thing I'll say on the whole equality, equity in the sport, to do the final push, I had these made, and this is a golf towel, big old pride flag on it. I figured that'd be pretty obvious, and Boom's logo in the middle, and it's got this little slit. So many of the towels are so big, and my bag is a Sunday golf bag, cool little company, and it's a tiny bag, and a normal towel would hang way too low. And so this one, you just slip it over one of your clubs, and then it only hangs down a little bit. And when I set it down, it's not dragging on the floor. I can clean my clubs, show some pride out there, and have myself a nice clean game of golf. So, as a creative professional, I have to go back to the end of July, and I think I told the story on a live stream a couple weeks ago, or in a video or a podcast or something. So forgive me if I'm repeating myself a tiny bit, but I filmed at this camp. And while I was there, everyone was lovely. Fantastic experience all around, but there were some limitations which started to get into my head big time. And I'd say the three main limitations were, number one, there just weren't a lot of campers. I think there were 11 campers due to a handful of reasons while I was there. There were more campers before I was there, a lot more campers after I was there. But while I was there, 11 campers. And to me, that means that every shot I got of all these, the wide range of activities that they had at this camp, it was like the same 2-3 people in all my shots. There were 2 females and 9 males. And everything was, anything with the girls was like, okay, here's the 2 of them doing arts and crafts, the 2 of them doing this, the 2 of them doing that. And for me, like looking, I'm like, how am I going to make a video out of this? This looks like the same 2 people, like, and there wasn't a lot of flexibility to like get behind them or frame things differently, because a lot of the places were a little smaller, were outside, and the sun was in a certain way where it was just frustrating because all my footage felt like it looked the same. Second issue was that this place is nestled in this gorgeous little area that they have in the mountains of Pennsylvania. And thick trees all around, just beautiful, the greatest, quietest setting to walk through, tall pine trees and stuff like that. Wonderful. But for drone footage, all you see is trees. You can't really see any of the cabins. There's one area where there's a wide field, like with their dining hall, but it's only really open from one angle. And once you fly up a little bit, you can't tell where anything is. There's a lake at the center of the camp, and you can see that. But as soon as you fly up, you can't see any of their buildings, their lodge, their dining hall, or anything like that. And so I was getting frustrated of like, usually there's a bunch of great drone footage, and there's just not a lot here. And then lastly, I've shot at a camp before, and we had a golf cart that we got to bring all our stuff all over. And we had no golf cart this time. And so everything that I wanted to have, I had to keep on my back. And that was a problem because I wanted a lot of stuff. I wanted different lenses. I wanted different audio equipment. I would have loved to have brought some bounce and some flags and some stuff as we were doing these interviews. I would have loved to have 2 tripods, but anything that I brought, my drone, any extra batteries, all had to fit on my back. And my cabin where I could leave things and charge things, etc., was about 1/3 of a mile from the main part of camp where we were filming everything. So I had to go back and forth, and I didn't want to do that more than I had to because that was time lost that I wasn't able to film, walking back and forth with 40 pounds of gear. And so I tried to fit as much as I could on my back to make the most out of these trips, to make the most out of my time. And here's where I noticed that I was having a problem, because I got so frustrated on the first day after I had filmed for like an hour, and I felt like I filmed everything. Got all the drone footage. There's not much more. Everything's going to look the same. I've got footage of the campers doing a whole bunch of stuff, and I don't know what else I could get. I have footage of all of them, and at a point you can't use footage of the same 2 people again and again and again. And because of that, I was just in this place. I started to be like, I don't know what else to do. And I was frustrated, not only that I felt like there was nothing to film, but I was frustrated with myself for feeling like there was nothing I could film, and thinking of past gigs where I had just gotten gorgeous footage and all this flexibility, and then I'm sitting there at this gig thinking that's not happening here. There's nothing I can do here. This is just going to be bad. And I was there, I was able to film for 3 days. That first day, I got so frustrated. And the second day, for the first half of the day, I was just as frustrated. We filmed like this soccer tournament. I filmed this soccer tournament. It wasn't we, it was only me. I filmed this soccer tournament, and after a few kicks and goals, and I shot it from this angle, from that angle, put the drone above it, like, oh, okay. I know more is going to happen. It's an all-day tournament. And yet, knowing like what the final video is going to look like, I'm like, well, I've got a shot of like feet up close dribbling a ball. I've got a shot of a goal going in the net from behind the net. I don't have anything else to shoot. I don't know what else to do. And I just started to resign to like, this just isn't going to be there. Like there's nothing I can do here to make better shots. I got all the shots that there are to get. And I was just bummed. And it wasn't until that night that I took some time and just sort of tried to clear my head. And I went back and I backed up my footage, put in fresh memory cards. I'm like, let's make the most of this. And that night, there were just a couple things, a lot of people just hanging out outside, but I started zooming in on hands and like sort of profiles and getting people laughing and smiling at each other. And I started to find little things where I'm like, you know, this isn't technically like a part of camp, but these interactions are a big part of what it's about. And by capturing them in a way that's not like, hey, here's me doing arts and crafts, here's me doing archery, whatever, but rather this is the atmosphere. This is what it's like to be around here. And with only 11 people, I started to like shoot behind other people to try to make it build up a bit bigger of a crowd where, yes, we would focus on one person, but we would sort of see through the shoulders of a lot of other people. And it started to click, and I started to get a little momentum. And after I got that little bit of momentum, I started getting more creative. And I got out a 360 camera that I brought and was just having fun with it. And when I started to have fun with it, I started to shoot even more. And that night, I got so much good footage. Then the next day, the third day, just all day shooting. And I was on a roll, and it was feeling great. And I was invigorated and felt creative and empowered and excited. And what I learned was, it had been a while and I was rusty, but that frustration got to me on day one. It just straight up got to me. And when you're trying to be creative, like think about if you're trying to write a book, for example, you want to write a cool adventure novel and sell it. And you sit down and you're like, I'm going to write this adventure novel. And then you go to pick it up the next day and keep working on it, but you had a lousy day at work. You don't really want to do it, and somebody flipped you off while you were driving, and then you're just in a bad mood. And you can easily see how like you can write this off like, well, I don't want to write tonight. Like I'm just not feeling it tonight. And these are how a lot of our personal projects get put off. But when you're a creative professional, when you have to create, it's not an option to be uncreative. You have to put yourself in a place where you can be as creative as possible so that you can make the best footage as possible. And I've talked about this before, about your attitude and your mindset and collaborating with people, and how I've worked with people who are very pessimistic and like, no, don't worry about that, that's not gonna work. And I've worked with people who are like, ooh, I don't know, try it, see it. And the latter is a great set where people try things, and even if you don't use any of it, the attitude is different, the excitement is different, the ambition is different, and you end up with better stuff because people are encouraged to be more creative. They're enabled to be more creative. And so this concept of you got to be in a good mood when you're doing video production is true. And you can see it in your own work and in whatever you do. I'm sure you get better at solving problems if you're excited about it, versus if you're pessimistic and you're in this mindset of like, everything's going wrong, I don't know what to do, you're going to have a bad time. You're not going to be as good at it. You got to embrace that complicated, challenging nature of what you do. Golf is that in so many ways. Golf, you take, in theory, somewhere between 60 and 120 shots when you're playing 18 holes of golf. I typically play 9, and I shoot somewhere around 50, somewhere between like 46, 55 is where I hit. That's how many times I hit the ball in 2 hours. And knowing that, some of the shots are going to be bad. And anyone who plays golf will tell you there are bad shots. And what happens is you step up, you take a really bad shot off the tee, you're in the woods and stuff, and then you get there and you're like, I'm in the woods. I'm not going to be able to get this up there. Like, I'm not going to be able to make par on this hole. And you're just frustrated. And you make a bad shot. You're not focused like you would be. You're not having fun. And my buddy Carl also pointed me to the book, Golf is Not a Game of Perfect. And forgive me, I cannot think. Dr. Robert something is the author's name, I think. And I listened to the abridged version of the audiobook. It's all I had available to me as I was driving this past weekend. But it was a lot about how you need to kind of wipe your brain clean, and you can't carry a bad shot with you. And the pros do that well. When they have a good tournament, best tournament, they'll win the tournament. There'll be 5 bad shots that they make. They'll screw up 5, 6, 7 times. What separates a champion from somebody who doesn't win the tournament is the champion can brush it off. They can duff it into the woods, into the rough, get out of club, and still just find it within them, sail it. Bob Rotella, Jay, you know everything, man. That's crazy. Thanks for being my Siri in the comments right now. But it's a fascinating book, but it's all about golf and how to keep your mindset right and accept that golf is not a game of perfect. There will be mistakes, and your success in the game is about how you react to those mistakes, both with your technical approach on the course, but also mentally. And if you get downtrodden and upset, you're going to have a game that reflects that. And the point that he made, which I thought was really cool, was people think they'll look at their scorecard and they'll be like, I got birdie, 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 or par, 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 whatever. I had like 5 good holes in a row. What can I do to get back to that streak? Like, I don't know what I did to have such a good streak of holes. And what he said, and I really liked this as someone who's had a few streaks like that, it's like those streaks are when you're playing your best. That's not something lucky that happened. That's you at your talent level not being held back. And when your scores start to be worse on certain holes, that's when you start to lose confidence a little bit, and you're overthinking your stroke, and you're overthinking which club you should use, and so you get in your own head and you just don't swing as purely as your body can, as you've evidenced on better performances. And that element right there, I found like absolutely in line with creativity and with being a professional video producer. Like when I'm holding a camera, if I screw up the shots, I got to be able to say like, well, I screwed up those shots. Let me try again. All right. All that, it could be like an SD card failed and I lost all that footage, or it could be all that footage was out of focus or overexposed, or just, I didn't like it. Like what I was dealing with on that day one, if it was all the same stuff, it just didn't look fun. I wasn't enjoying it. And that affected the next shots I was able to do. And compared to a day where I started to have a couple good shots, not golf shots, camera shots, I started to have a few good shots. That's inspired me to try some different things. And I was having fun with it. And the more I had fun with it, the better the footage got, the more things I tried, et cetera, et cetera. And it's that mental game to solve problems, but to enjoy solving problems. And as a video producer, holding a camera and having to force myself to be creative can be really, really tough. But golf gives you the opportunity to flex that muscle and to go out to make a bad shot and to recover from it. And to still, not just recover from it, but even if the score is bad, still have fun so that you can go out and try again. Because if you play such a bad round of golf that you're just like, this is stupid, I'm never going to play again, that same thing can happen in video, and might, or in whatever creative field you're in, where you're just like, you know what, I'm not good at filming anymore. I had every resource available to me and I just couldn't make it happen. And that's a poisonous attitude. And so for me, I've been taking this mindset consciously onto the golf course. And there's been a few times where I used a club. I have one club that I never used, this hybrid. And there was a game that I did where I teed off with it every single hole, and these were some bad shots. But my goal in it was to say, okay, I'm going to hit a bad shot. I'm going to be frustrated. And part of me is thinking, if I use this thing by the end of the round, I'm going to sort of figure it out, right? I didn't. And that was frustrating. And I had the opportunity to force myself to reckon with that frustration, to still play the rest of it, to still enjoy it, to look for opportunities to grow and to use the different clubs in different ways to get myself out of certain situations. And now I've added this sand wedge, this 56-degree club, and it is bothering me because I know it's an essential club. I just don't know how to use it, and I'm trying to look at different videos online, and it's just not clicking with me, and it's really frustrating. But that's such a parallel metaphor to creative production. Like you get a new lens. You're like, I know other people use this lens. Why doesn't it look good when I use it? And you got to just keep using it, and you keep looking at footage. You're like, what's wrong with this footage? And you keep analyzing it. But if you get frustrated, you're never gonna have that breakthrough moment where you start to understand it. You've got to enjoy that process, enjoy that frustration, enjoy the resistance and the challenges that come with it, because that's what's going to turn you into a better video producer, audio engineer, writer, graphic designer, whatever it is that you do in the creative field, especially if you're doing it for work where you can't just say, I'm going to take a month off until I get in a better mood. Like, no, you got a job tomorrow and you got to be good. You got to be fun to be around. You got to produce good results. You got to develop the muscle to be in a good mood and to shake off the bad stuff. If you've got a rough morning, if things go wrong, whether it's your fault or not, you can show up to a golf course and it's pouring down rain. You can show up to a video gig and it's pouring down rain. What do? You can't just pack it in sometimes and say, well, nothing we can do here today. You got to solve problems. You might say, hey, the audio's garbage. Nothing we can do here today. No, you figure out a way to make it work. You try different microphones. You try different situations. You try putting up sound blankets, whatever you can do. You got to solve the problem. You got to move forward. Yeah, Jay talking about frequency issues and interference with microphones. And to that point, I'm wearing a microphone that I never really figured out the problem, just rolling the dice with it again and hoping for the best. But that muscle is a very important muscle. The muscle of overcoming frustration with your own performance or situational things that you can't control, but showing up and being able to solve problems, try things, and more than anything, try again. Even if you're trying the same thing, try again and again and again, because if you stop doing anything, you're not going to create anything. And if you stop swinging the club, you're never going to get to the hole. And I loved Adam Savage had a video. I love Adam Savage's videos. He had a video a couple weeks ago, and I think I talked about this on one of these videos recently, but he was talking about how when you have a creative project, so often it doesn't go the exact way you plan it. But if you spend all your time planning on how it's going to go, you'll be really frustrated when it doesn't go that way. And he had this metaphor about the compass on your phone. Like when you put in directions to go somewhere, a lot of times you're sitting in your car parked on the street or in your driveway or whatever, and you pick your directions and it doesn't know which way you're facing. And you have to just start driving a little bit, and then your phone is like, oh, we're headed north. Go left here. It's not a right. Sorry. And that happens in creativity of, I had this vision in my mind for what this video was going to be, and I needed to just start filming to see like, oh, actually it's not going to work how I thought it was going to work, but I didn't know that until I started filming, and I have to keep filming. And through that, I will find the project to where it needs to be, to where it wants to be. And golf is so much the same thing, where it might be raining, it might be windy, it might be whatever. You could have all these situations. What's up, Chris? You could have all these situations that are beyond your control, or just failure of your own talents for whatever reason. Being able to overcome that is really important. So that's why I like golf. The other piece that I really like about golf is the fact that, again, I use a half set of clubs. You're allowed 14 clubs. I bring 6. I have no intention of getting more clubs or filling in gaps between my clubs. I have a putter, sand wedge, pitching wedge, 7-iron, a hybrid that I don't use, and my driver. And this is what I love, and what I'm surprised, I figured this out in the past couple of days, or realized it in the past couple of days, that when I'm on the golf course, it could be the kind of thing that like you're standing there, you're talking to somebody else who plays a lot of golf, and they're like, this is a 160-yard shot, this is an 8-iron, hit your 8-iron. I don't have an 8-iron. I've got to figure out how to use my 7-iron a little differently to get out what an 8-iron would accomplish. And as somebody who owns camera gear, and Jay with your audio gear, Chris with your camera gear, you know that you can only bring so many lenses, and it could be the kind of thing where, oh, I have the perfect lens for this, but I don't have room to bring it, or I don't have the particular lens that would be good for this. How can I use what I have to make the most of it? And there's so many cool resources on YouTube of people replicating shots from famous cinematic sequences, or coming up with things that no one has ever seen or imagined before, that they're doing with whatever they've got around. And it's so easy to say, well, I can't shoot that. I can't film that because I don't have a super, super slow-mo camera. I don't have a macro lens that I can put underwater, so there's no way for me to shoot that. I don't have a robot that can control these cameras, so there's no way for me to do that. And then there's people with fishing line and their phones who do stuff that would blow your mind. And that ingenuity and intuition to do something different, to take what you have and maximize it and find different ways to use it. And when you master a lens in a way that you can do a whole bunch of different things with it, when you master an element of writing or a microphone, or when you figure out things that you can stretch and get so much more out of than you may have imagined at the outset, you grow. You grow, your capabilities grow, all without having to grab a bunch of extra gear. And so that's what I've loved about my half set of clubs, is that I can go out on the course, and when someone else would say like, oh, swing like you always swing, use a different club. In the same way that I could show up on a film set and somebody would be like, oh, we just need this lens, is gonna be a 80 millimeter shot, whatever, and all I've got is a 24-70. Like, okay, what can I do different? Can I film it in 4K and zoom in later? Can I move it in closer? Can we light it differently? What can we do? And it's less about the gear and more about the mindset. And again, you can get pretty close with the wrong gear if you know how to use it right, and if you've got the right attitude. It always comes down to that attitude, where I can tell you that if you don't have the exact lens that you might need and the robot, and you've got a bad attitude, you're not going to have the shot. You're not going to finish the project. You're not going to bring it to life. And it's not because you can't, it's because you won't, because your attitude's wrong and you're unwilling to try things. And that's been an exciting part. That's the other piece of this, is being flexible and trying to say, okay, well, I'm in the grass, I'm in the sand, and I don't have the perfect club for this situation. What do I have? What do I have? How can I get myself out of this and in a spot where I do have something that could get me to the green? Thinking like this and staying in a good mood about it, and not just staying in a good mood. And I've talked about this before, but when you're solving problems, being excited that there are problems. And that's something I try to do on set, where you show up and there's a giant window and sun is coming in, and it'd be so easy to be like, we can't film in here. We need to find a different place. This room's not going to work. It's too echoey. This is never going to. Instead of that, I get excited to say, okay, how are we going to do this? How is my final shot going to look so good that when I tell my friends and my colleagues, like, and you wouldn't believe we had this massive window, but we figured out that with a blanket just in this spot, it would be just enough to cover the frame, but we'd let the background still light. That sort of stuff, and being excited about the problems and solving them, changes what you can do as a creative professional. And if you're instead in a mindset where you throw your hands up and say, I can't create like this just is too much for me, you're not going to create good stuff. You're not going to get recommended to other people, and you're going to have a sad and short career fraught with frustration and unhappy clients. But if instead of just having the experience to solve problems and having the composure to do it on the fly, if you get excited about it, that just makes so much more possible, and it's going to make you so much better of a creative professional. And I know this in my head, and it's the kind of thing where then when I play golf, I know it. I know I need to stay excited, but I get frustrated. I chip it into the bunker when I know I've done it right before, and I get frustrated, and I know not to, but I can't help it. And forcing myself out of that spot again and again through this game, I'm seeing very real change in my life as a creative professional, where it's that same muscle. Dodging cameras when people are moving it and you're trying to mic things properly. Being excited about this is going to make you better at whatever you do creatively versus having a bad attitude about it. And it's not something, even though you're probably listening to this being like, yeah, I know that. But think about the last time you were on set and how you solved a problem, because I'm telling you this with all the confidence and excitement that I have, but also today I tried to edit and I haven't edited in a couple weeks, and I'm rusty and I'm slow, and my client didn't put their comments in Frame.io where I like them, where they come right into my editing software. Instead, they sent me an Excel sheet with time code on it, which makes a bunch of extra work. And I'm sitting there looking, I'm like, this is gonna, I got in my own head. I got frustrated. I was slower. I wasn't in my normal routine. And it took me out. It took me out and inspired me to talk about this tonight, because you can always get better. Not just at what you do, but how you approach it and your mental health as you go into it. And if you need to step back for a little bit, take a break, reevaluate, get your head right, you should do that. You should do that, because you'll be better for it. And your clients will thank you, your portfolio will thank you, your future will thank you. That's all I got. I'm excited to keep playing golf. I keep learning from it, and I'm excited to keep making videos. I keep learning from it, and I've talked about this at the end of several live streams. I love doing these live streams because I learn about things. I learn about problems with audio. I learn about lights and their different settings and how they work for my phone versus how they work for my mirrorless cameras. And it's an exercise in how to do public speaking, how to read Jay's comment as I'm mid-sentence and try to respond to it in kind. There are lessons here that I stumble through, but by doing it, by iterating, by getting out here and being okay with, like, okay, last week I couldn't get my microphone to work at all, and so I just sat closer to the camera. You all got a better look of at my face. But rather than say, like, well, I don't have the microphone working, I can't do this. You don't get better. You don't get better if you do that. You gotta just start moving. You gotta just start making, and you've got to adjust your attitude to be excited about it. And when the challenges pop up, embracing them and keeping your composure will go such a long way to making you, yes, better at it, but more importantly, it'll make you enjoy it more. That is all I got. Thank you so much for watching, for being a part of these. I, once again, have more viewers at the very end of this than I ever did, which makes me not want to stop, but that's what we've got to do. Jay, anybody, if you're in St. Louis and you want to play golf, let's go. I'm about to, at the end of the month, start to have a little bit of extra time, and I'm looking to meet more people who want to play golf and learn from it, people who are going to be patient with me as I figure things out, and I will be equally patient with anyone who doesn't know how to connect with the ball. It's going to be fun. Yeah, let's get some amateur golfers who are in the production field together and play some golf this fall. I'm 100% into that. But shoot me a message if you want to play golf, if you're seeing this live, or if you watch this later and made it all the way to this point. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Shoot me a message. Stuff is in the bio. That's it. Have a great day, night, whatever, wherever. See you later. Bye.